Alright, my last XRP video was Trizash. My audio was horrible. I was too far away from the mic. So, let's try this again. XRP has she reloaded? Alright, so, I'm not a big crypto guy, fundamentals and all that. I mean, crypto is what got me into the markets. So, I'll give it props for that. But, ultimately, I'm not a fan of crypto anymore because I've been waiting for over, 7, 8 years for this thing to actually become a real world asset that I can say that I'm using, and that's not happening. And these things are worth billions of dollars in market cap for things I don't really do pretty much. But at the end of the day, I will trade a chart. And this XRP chart looks fantastic. Again, I'm looking at XRP on a 2-week chart. First thing I'm going to look at is these triangles. We've been sitting here in these triangles. We have a squeeze right here. Bam, broke out beautifully and fell right into a squeeze. It's a triangle into a bull pennant. That's beautiful. And if you know how to measure these moves, we can go here to bull pennants, bull flags. You see the measured moves is typically just I've seen some people actually use the inside of the pennant as a way to measure the move. But traditionally, you'll just use the flagpole, and when it breaks out, you'll go from there. So, let's see. So if we're looking at the breakout from here to here, that looks like our flagpole right there. So if I take this, put it down here, and I kind of had it done already. If I take this, put this down here, bam, that'll be our breakout of the flagpole. And as you can see, we didn't quite reach the target yet. So this has me very, very intrigued. The next thing I want to do is look at, another thing I think is important is divergence. Especially with this move right here. Sometimes when you want to know if you're in a chart that's a little overdone, if you were in XRP and you bought this guy at 51 cents right here, lucky dog you, and caught it inside of this triangle and rode it up to about 333. I mean, what more could you ask for? And this is a 2-week chart, so it took off October 7th, and it topped out around January of the very next year. That's what percentage gain is that? That's a 5x. It's 5x in a few months. Like, what more could you ask for? And if you got greedy and you decided to stay in a little bit longer, you kind of got what you deserve, because if you look right here, we have a high and a higher high. And if you look down here, we have a high. Let me get rid of this guy real fast. You have a high, higher high, high, lower high. And that was all that she wrote. This divergence here, that divergence there. Yeah, not good. So that kind of gave us our move down in XRP. What is this thing right here? Why is this here? Let's get this out of here. Excuse me. Why is this little speck right here? Get that out of there. All right, cool. Now, if we look at this chart, first thing I want to do is run some Fibonacci. Well, another thing I'm looking at is, if you see it right here, it's the screen right in front of your face. The CM William VIX. This is something I picked up from one of the Ellioticians that I really, really like, Invest with Jacob. His investment course alone was worth the money. Like, I know he has some other products that he sells. I couldn't keep up with. I'm not a big fan of day trading. I wasn't really a good day trader. I like my long-term investing. But his beginner's Elliott Wave course, phenomenal. I've always played with Elliott Wave tools, but I think having some guides and rules and restrictions to play by, it kind of changed up the game for me. And one of the things that he offered in his course, he kind of gives you his layout with his indicators and things like that. And one of the indicators that I took from him that I really, really like, is his Vegas tunnel. His Vegas tunnel is powerful, very phenomenal. Price always seems to come back. And if you see on the 2-week chart, we're actually at the Vegas tunnel right now, as well as we're getting a super bright green CM William VIX. This is a good way to predict bottoms. It's not always 100%, but when it's been this green for a while, I'll take that. I'll kind of add that to the checklist. We see we got a sign right here. It was, a good sign of a bottom. This right here was not very accurate. We continued on down from there. But I like the signal. And also, if you have not noticed, we have some divergence on a 2-week. I'm going to say even on the monthly chart. Yeah, we have it even on the monthly. So if you look at this low right here, that's our last low, or even this low right here. We have, again, that's only if this chart does not break this level and start coming down here. But for right now, if this is a low and this is a higher low and this is a low and that's a lower low, then you have a classic divergence on your hand here from a monthly standpoint, which is insanely powerful. I know some people say they don't too much care for monthly divergences, but I'll just add it to the checklist as something that I would pay attention to when looking for a trade. So yeah, so we have a low, higher low, low, lower low. Love to see it. 2-week chart. CM Williams VIX lighting up green. Looks good. And now for Fibonacci. I mean, come on, it's Fibonacci free. We got to do it, right? So again, I like to go take my Fibonacci's from the with the RSI. Again, it is a triangle pattern, and Fibonacci's don't always work in triangle patterns, but I'm still going to add them just because that's just what I do. I love Fibonacci's. I've seen them work really, really well. And again, if I add Fibonacci and I see that the price is being respected, it kind of gives me a lot more validity to the actual Fibonacci that I'm running. So the first thing I'm looking at here is, let's look for a low. If I'm looking at this level right here, we had a big move up. So this move here, and it kind of, again, we had divergence. We had a high here, high here, high here, low here. The move was done. Get out of Dodge. So then we had our pullback. So now I'll be taking this low. This is our new low here, right? And even if you look at the RSI, we came back to our bottom. So I'm going to use my Fibonacci levels from the RSI. I'm going to go from this low up to that high and then that low, and that'll give me my pathway. Like I said, this low to that high, then back down to that swing low, and that'll give me my pathway. Actually, I'm sorry. See this RSI right here? Look at this guy. That is the highest RSI. And even though this area looks high, that's where I would like to go from. But the RSI says, no, buddy, that's technically higher. This one right here. So I got to go with that guy. Right? So I'm going with this guy. And brings us to right here. Yeah, I think that's actually where I had it before. And if you look at it, you love it because you have your low, high, low down here, right? And it gives you from here our roadmap. And if you look at our roadmap, what do we have? We have, again, so this 3, the minute you leave the red zone, I look at it like football. You got to get out that red zone. And once you get out of the red zone, you have no business being back in there. So once we make it to that Fibonacci right there, this 382, we have no business being back in this red zone. Even if you see it right here, we came very close. This level right here, we came, let me get this exact. I like to try to be exact as I can on my fib levels. So we came very, very close. We came close to hitting the 382 right here. We did not. We got back in the red zone. If you hit that 382 and you get back in the red zone, that to me is saying that this low here probably isn't really the low. We'll probably need to come back down a little bit lower at some point. But we did not hit the 382 before we got in the red zone, so none of that matters. We're still waiting to see what happens. The minute we hit that 382, which we kind of just rammed through it right here, we rammed through it and look where we ended up. We ended up right at the 618. How beautiful is that, right? Hit the 618, came back down to the red zone, made it to the 5. We peaked in right here, but we didn't close any candles in there. So I wouldn't really consider that a violation. And again, this is crypto. Crypto is insanely volatile and it likes to whip you out of your positions, especially if you're leveraged. This is why I stopped trading crypto on leverage because it's just crazy. So we had our wick in here. And then from there, we just shot off. Remember, we're still in this triangle pattern right here. This triangle pattern is a very, very powerful, very, very strong pattern. So we broke out of the triangle pattern and look where we got to. We made it right up to the 1.272. And one thing I also learned from Invest with Jacob and his Fibonacci, his Elliott wave for beginners course, he talks about the power of the Fibonacci levels. And once you hit these Fib levels, a lot of times you'll like to come back to the pivot. Our pivot is always going to be our 618 to the 764. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've seen charts, break out and you think it's running up to the 618 and it comes back to retest the pivot. It happens time and time again. So again, we hit the, 1.272. A lot of times I've also seen the chart make it up to that 1.272 and that'll be all she wrote. So a lot of times we'll get up here, we'll literally kiss it and it will just fall down, say right into the pivot or just break the whole structure. But what I liked about this was it gave us that divergence that it made it up here, fell back down and gave us that second high while the RSI gave us that lower high, gave us the divergence and bam, we fell down. And we fell down right into the 2-week Vegas tunnel. Beautiful support here. I still think we can go lower. I'm still looking at this 618 right here. And I think there's, the 618 to me is always going to be an important level. It's the part of the golden ratio. I mean, it could even possibly come down to 75 cents at the 5. There's a lot of support here too. As long as we don't break that red zone, the pivot is always a good place to re-up. It's XRP cryptos, even though I'm not the biggest fan, I will admit that there is a lot of interest and a lot of money behind these things for whatever reason. But I like the opportunity here, the risk to reward, as well as I don't know if you guys can see this arc I have here. I've been playing with these arcs for a while. Let me go to the monthly chart. I've been playing with these arcs for maybe like 2-3 years now. And man, they hit. I'll show you a silver, arc in another chart, in another video. But this arc literally, again, I can't tell you why this stuff works. Some people say technical analysis is a science, math, or it's an art form. I like the art form part of it. I'm not scared to get on a chart and just start drawing shit. And you'd be surprised how much, why this stuff works. But again, these tools are here for a reason. Whatever, whoever made this stuff, but they put these tools here for a reason and they work well. I mean, they're not guaranteed. Nothing's 100%, but these tools work pretty well. Very interesting. So yeah. Again, and if this is correct, if this arc, one thing I like about the arcs is they kind of give you a little bit of a time restraint. In most things in technical analysis, you might have targets. Like I see 618 targets all the time. And I, can be confident that at some point an asset will get there, but I have no idea when. One thing I like about the arc is the arc kind of helps us out with saying, okay, you know what? Maybe this could happen, in a certain time, So if this arc gets respected and price decides to run up to the 618, right here is about September 2027. Again, that's a big move up. I mean, right now, XRP is trading at $1.07, and I actually think it's going to fall down to about 95 cents, 94 cents. If it were to make it from this range and make it back up there, that would be a 5x move. That would pretty much be a continuation of this. It'd be a up, retrace, and then, it would just match, which would be beautiful. And I like this zone. I've pretty much been buying. I bought a little bit, on the way down. Like I started averaging in at about maybe 120. Once we got under 110, I've been buying, a lot more. Cause again, sometimes I've seen things hit the pivot and as soon as they hit the pivot, they'll just take off. You see, I don't know if you can see right here. Zoom in. The minute it breached the pivot, this wick down into the pivot, caught a little bounce back up. And now we're actually coming back in to dig into the pivot. It doesn't have to hit this, the 618. I've seen sometimes I've waited for something to get there and it doesn't. It'll just turn around on you. That sucks. So I said, once we enter the zone, I'll start averaging in. If we hit that 618, I'll take another chunk. I'm not backing up the truck or anything, but I think it's, it's a good vibe. XRP is going to do something that would be the place to do it. So again, we're in the pivot. Beautiful, beautiful. Love that. Love the fact that and we also had a, I don't know if you guys know much about ABC corrections, but we had an A, a B, and a C correction. Let's see if I can add the, where's little ABC tools. There we go. Here's my ABC tool. We got a 0, A, B, C. Beautiful textbook. Yeah, so we have, we've entered the pivot right here. Beautiful. We have divergence. We have a low, higher low, low, higher low. Low, lower low, low, higher low, divergence, as well as the CM Williams VIX indicator. Not on the monthly, but we have it on the 2-week, and we also have a 618 that hasn't been breached. These are all confirmation marks. These are all check marks that say, hey, 9 times out of 10, I'm taking this trade, so, I'll be getting into a position with XRP and, we'll see what happens from here. I think, the next year and a half could be interesting in crypto. And, speaking of which, even if we look at Bitcoin's chart, do we have divergence? We have a low, higher low. This to me looks like a double bottom on the RSI. Very interesting. Let's zoom into this weekly chart. Do I see a divergence forming? Potentially forming. We have a low, lower low, low. Excuse me. Let's get this guy up. And a low and a higher low. Again, price has to turn up from here and has to get above this for this to confirm. But also look, that's that very same, arc that I have on, that very same arc that I have on XRP, we also seem to be forming one on Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin was to break out of, let me get rid of this right here. It's confusing. So if Bitcoin was to break out of this falling wedge, we're in a beautiful textbook falling wedge, and at least come back to retest and, breach and make it to about 125. I think that would be enough for, XRP and the bulls to kind of go wild and take XRP up to its target level. So, a lot of similarities in its charts. We just need some bullish action to see if we can complete this triangle and end off where we began. And it's with that flag pattern. That flag pattern takes us very close into that 1764 territory. So yeah, I'm taking this trade 10 times out of 10. Let's see what happens. All right, guys. Fibonacci Frey. Peace.